And we're moving on to a story that I think if you're a millennial or a Gen Z, it might mean something to you. Actually, if you're not, it still might mean something to you, but we're going to get into it. Check this out. Shout out to friend of the show, Roger Meadows, for sending me this. Why are millennials and Gen Z so burned out? Man's theory goes viral. Let's get into this a little bit. I'm a millennial. I'm an older millennial. We've been through a lot. 08 housing crisis, pandemic, right? A lot has happened. Gen Z, the pandemic, a lot of things. The cost of living has continued to increase, and wages, in my opinion, have not adjusted for inflation. If wages adjusted for inflation, we wouldn't have a minimum wage that's like $7.25 an hour, right? So I think at this point, the minimum wage should be at least in the 20s. I think I have an article on that I'll show you in just a second. But I want you to hear what this guy had to say, and you guys can tell me how you feel about this. We often hear that millennials and Gen Z are lazy and entitled, but one man insists that isn't the truth. And actually, most of them are just burned out. As a millennial, people born between 1981 and 1996, Freddie Smith, 37, can relate to the struggles that many people in his generation face. He is tired of hearing the criticism that young people don't want to put in the hard work, or that they use burnout as an excuse. I gotta agree with dude here, right? I gotta agree with them. So let's get into this video that went so viral. I want to make sure you got the video here.
Where people think, oh, these kids are so burned out, they're just lazy. It's like, no, they're working 40 hours a week, but at the end of the month, they have nothing to show for it. So if you're not making any progress and you look back 5 years and go, damn, I made $300,000 in the last 5 years, or I made $400,000 in the last 5 years, and I have nothing. If anything, I have $25,000 in debt. That's going to create burnout because you feel like you just put in 5 years of work and have nothing to show for it. And we still have people blaming them that, well, the reason you're broke is because of the coffee. It's like, no, it's the 25% inflation that we've faced that just destroyed people's spending power. It's the 30% increase in rent prices where people are spending 40% of their money on rent. You're still being taxed 20, 25, 30%. People just don't have any money. People aren't having kids. They're not being able to start families. People are struggling financially, fighting financially. Relationships are suffering. This is all decline in living standards. You realize millennials with degrees are living with roommates into their 30s, not having kids? How do you have a Thanksgiving in a 900 square foot apartment? How do you have a dog and go play in the backyard and make memories with your kids? I was living in an apartment complex just 2.5 years ago. Tons of kids. They may do, but they're all playing on the cement floors in the hallway because they don't have a yard, because houses are $400,000. Humans are good at adapting, but there's a fine line between adapting and being taken advantage of, and I think we're being taken advantage of.
So I think that part there is very important, right? So he said these kids are working like 40 something hours a week, but at the end of the month, they have nothing to show for it. I think that's a big part of the problem, right? So we have inflation, we have higher prices. Also, based on some of the salaries that I've seen that some of these undergraduates are being paid when they graduate from college, I would say they're being underpaid if we were to compare them to where their parents were at that point in time. Again, because wages have not adjusted for inflation. So that's a big part of it. Another thing I'm going to show you too, rent and housing prices is through the roof. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I just want to show you what you're dealing with here. The other thing that he brings up here is savings. And this one works just well. Thank goodness. This is a Twitter video. He talks about, remember when people would save money? Listen to this.
This is incredible. So this word has been trending and I had to look it up and it blew my mind. You're never, millennials and Gen Z, you're not going to believe what this is. So apparently back in the day, there was something called a savings or a savings account, which essentially was like a second checking account. So, you know, every 2 weeks you get a direct deposit from your paycheck. And as soon as the money hits the account, it's gone to bills. Well, back in the day, there was money left over. Like after the bills, there was money left over and they had to put it somewhere. So they put it in a savings account.
I can testify to this because my parents had this thing, right? Like, so my dad, this is how he taught me how to do things. But I remember my dad, like they used to sit down at the table and they used to do the bills. So like I said, I'm an older millennial, guys, come back with me. But they used to sit down at the table and like my dad and my mom, like they would do the bills. My dad had like his checkbook and all that kind of stuff. And my dad like used to allocate money in a certain way. Like this is the money for bills. This is the money for groceries. This is the money for miscellaneous. Like if we wanted to go to the movies or something like that. And then the rest he would put in savings. Here's the problem, folks. A lot of people that are millennials and Gen Z don't have anything left over to put in savings. That's a big part of the problem. So when we say they're experiencing burnout, it's like, yeah, they're working all these hours, but the pay is so little, but the rent is so damn high. Let me let them finish here.
And not just once, every single month, they would put money into a savings account so they could have it for security or an emergency, for retirement. Some of them would take vacations with it, and they would use this account for a down payment on a house.
Yep.
So this is like a new concept to us, but we got to bring this thing back, because if we could figure out how to have a savings account and be able to travel, set up for retirement, invest, buy a house, we're going to be smooth sailing. So thank you for bringing this to my attention. If you don't believe me, you got to look it up. I promise I'm not lying. It's called a savings account.
Interesting the way that he says it, right? It's called a savings account. It's kind of funny, but it's true, because like a lot of times people don't have money left over to put it into the savings account. Now it is important. I mean, the way my dad always explained it to me is like, you got to have money saved for a rainy day. What I'm trying to get across to all of you tonight is that the Gen Z and a lot of the millennial kids, well, I guess adults, they don't have it. They don't have it. And I want to show you why. So we're going to look at these prices. Okay. We'll look at the minimum wage. This is what it really should be, right? So raising the minimum wage, despite 2/3 of Americans supporting raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour, it has stood at $7.25 an hour since July 2009. Now, peep this, fam. In fact, had the federal minimum wage kept pace with workers' productivity since 1968, the inflation-adjusted minimum wage should be $24 an hour. So what I want people to realize, it's not that these kids, these groups are working less. Oftentimes they're working more hours, but they're not getting the wages that they need to even have a savings account or even, just be able to put a down payment on a home. That's the problem. And rent continues to increase. So most of your paycheck goes to rent. Most of it. He mentioned people in their 30s, like having roommates. I know people in their 40s that still have roommates because they can't afford it. It's just too much. This is a problem that's happening all across the country. It used to just be a New York thing and a San Francisco thing, but now it's spread. And part of the reason is because, and they continue to say we have a shortage of housing. I don't buy that. Okay. We don't have a shortage of housing. What we have are these businesses. We have private equity that has bought a lot of these housing properties, these apartment complex, and the private equity companies, they buy it. And that's part of the reason why the rent increases the way that it does. Greystar is one of those companies, in case you were wondering. They're pretty popular. And one of my demands that I've always had is that we have to stop private equity from owning housing. We have to stop it. That's one part of the problem. So to his point, if you're not making enough money to have a savings account, then you're not making enough money to put a down payment on a home. But let's say you were. Let me show you what you would be working with. We're going to look at, this is Canton, Massachusetts. Okay. Canton, Massachusetts. It's south of Boston. So it's not in the city, but it's south of Boston. It used to be pretty affordable from what I remember. Take a look at what a single family home costs right now in Canton, Massachusetts, right? So look at this. This right here, just go to the list. This one here, for example, this is 1 bedroom, 1 bath, $289,000. That's not a home. That would be a condo. 2-bedroom, again, condo, $525,000 in Canton, Massachusetts. This isn't even like a hip place to be. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's true. We're talking about Canton. It's not like this is a place that has like a top 10 school district. No. 2-bedroom condo over $500,000. This shit is not normal and it's not sustainable. And I've been trying to get this message across to people. That's insane. I'm not even going to show you Boston because I think you can, figure that out. $395,000 for a 2-bedroom condo in Stoughton, Massachusetts. If you just scroll down, you see this. This is absolutely freaking ridiculous. This house right here to the left, which isn't even a giant house, is over $1.2 million. It's 3-bedroom home. A 3-bedroom home. Somebody explained to me, when did we get to a point in this country where a 3-bedroom house costs $1.2 million? I'll wait. Because when I was growing up, it wasn't that way. We'll go on a little bit more here. This is insane. Another one, 3-bedroom house in Canton, Massachusetts, $745,000. Are you shitting me? 4-bedroom house, $899,000. And to be honest with you guys, this is standard across the board. So when people ask, why aren't these kids buying homes? You see the prices? Now, to be fair, let's go south, because I lived in the South as well. Let's go south to Raleigh, North Carolina. I lived in North Carolina. Let's check this out. I want to show you something with Raleigh too. Somebody got to make this make sense to me. Why in the hell is this 4-bedroom home in Raleigh, North Carolina over $999,000? North Carolina used to be more affordable. Then they have the nerve to have a 2-bedroom home for $620,000. You can't even get 3 bedrooms. Like this is insane. This is North Carolina. 3-bedroom here, and this is a small one, and it's not updated. $480,000, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, right? And if you look at the pictures here, it's outdated, right? The carpet is old. The staircase is old. And if you're asking how I know these things, it's because, listen, when I watched a lot of HGTV growing up for years. So I can tell if the fixtures are outdated, all this kind of jazz. I mean, if you just look at the pictures here, is this ridiculous? So this is considered a Cape Cod style home, right? And I'm not saying it's a bad house, but what I'm saying is this type of home didn't used to cost this much in North Carolina. There was a time when you didn't have to make, this amount of money to be afforded. People can't afford this shit. The people who can afford it are the people who already had savings, already had wealth, or maybe someone who already owned a home and they sold that home. And then they're like, okay, we're going to move to North Carolina and we're going to buy this house. The point is the homes are overpriced. My parents, we had a 3-bedroom home, right? When we moved back to the States in North Carolina, we had a 3-bedroom home. That house was like $70,000. Backyard, big front yard. I'm not kidding. You see what they're charging. This is absolutely ridiculous. This is why the kids can't get it. This is why people aren't buying these homes. And I don't care what the hell. There's no way on earth, if you have a 3-bedroom home, this is ridiculous. And then, of course, I expect the larger homes to be expensive, right? I expect that. But we're talking about $345,000 for a townhouse in Raleigh, North Carolina that used to be $80,000. What is happening? $1.1 million, $475,000 for a 3-bedroom house in North Carolina. So one of the things that I told you guys before is that the solution is not to tell people just move to a different state. Part of the reason why homes are more expensive in North Carolina now is because people did just that, right? There was an influx of people that moved from places like New York, Massachusetts, and moved down south to North Carolina. They're like, whoa, homes are so much cheaper here. I'll just buy a house here. And that has continued over the years. You see that happening in places like Nashville, Tennessee as well, fastest growing city in the East. Everything's getting more and more expensive. So I'm saying this, here's the reality, folks. Don't go so hard on the Gen Z and millennial peeps, right? Just take a look at what's going on economically. Take a look around. Look at these damn prices. And those are the homes. Look at the rental prices. And give them a little bit of grace. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.